Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the stars drift past the main window when the communication alert began flashing red across his control panel. Message came from deep space using frequencies that only the Galactic Federation possessed, and Jake felt his stomach tighten as he recognized the source code displayed on his screen 3. Years had passed since humanity first made contact with the Federation, and those 3 years had been filled with careful diplomatic meetings and endless paperwork as Earth tried to find its place. Among 47 different alien species, Jake pressed the accept button and watched as his main screen filled with the image of Ambassador Zexthul, whose reptilian features and towering 8-foot frame never failed to make humans feel small and insignificant. The ambassador spoke in perfect English, though his voice carried the hissing undertones that marked all members of the Veltar species. Greetings, Captain Morrison. I bring word from the Federation Entertainment Council regarding a matter of great importance to your species. Jake glanced at Dr. Lisa Carter, who served as the ship's xenobiologist and had spent countless hours studying Federation culture and politics. Lisa stepped forward and gave the traditional Federation greeting, which involved a complex hand gesture that humans had practiced for months. Before getting right, Ambassador, we are honored by your communication and ready to hear what the Entertainment Council wishes to discuss. Us reptilian eyes seemed to glow brighter as he continued speaking, and Jake noticed that other Federation officials were standing behind the ambassador, though their faces remained hidden in shadow. The Grand Arena Championships will commence in one standard galactic year, and humanity has been selected to participate in this most prestigious competition. Jake felt the blood drain from his face as he processed what the ambassador had just announced. The Arena Championships were legendary throughout the galaxy and represented the ultimate test of combat skill, strategy, and survival instincts among Federation species. Every 5 years, the greatest warriors from each member species gathered at Nexus Station to compete in battles that determined not just individual glory, but political influence and trade advantages for their entire civilizations. Dr. Carter stepped closer to the communication screen, and Jake could see the concern written across her features. Ambassador, this is indeed a great honor, but we must ask about the nature of these championships and what participation would require from humanity. Zexthul made a sound that might have been laughter, though with his species it was difficult to tell the difference between amusement and predatory anticipation. Arena championships test all aspects of a species' capabilities, including physical prowess, tactical thinking, technological adaptation, and psychological resilience. Teams of specialists compete in elaborate scenarios that change constantly, and victory brings substantial benefits to the winning species, including enhanced voting rights in Federation politics and preferential trade agreements. Jake exchanged glances with Commander Alex Turner, who served as the ship's tactical officer and had extensive military experience from his days in Earth's armed forces. Commander Turner moved forward and addressed the ambassador directly. What happens if a species declines to participate in these championships? The ambassador's expression grew cold, and his reptilian features seemed to sharpen as he responded. Declining participation is considered a grave insult to the Federation and would result in significant damage to your species. Standing in galactic society, species that refuse the invitation often find themselves excluded from important trade negotiations, and their voices carry less weight in Federation decisions. Jake realized that humanity was being presented with a choice that wasn't really a choice at all either. They would send human warriors into combat against beings with centuries of arena experience, or they would face political and economic isolation from the galactic community. Dr. Carter had been studying her datapad while the conversation continued, and now she looked up with additional concerns. Ambassador, our research indicates that arena combat involves significant risks and that participants often suffer severe injuries or worse. How Does the Federation ensure fair competition between species with vastly different physical capability? Ishikal's response came quickly, as if he had expected this question. Arena championships have operated successfully for over 1,000 years, and medical technology can heal most injuries sustained during competition. Each species brings their unique evolutionary advantages to the arena floor, and success depends more on strategy and adaptability than pure physical strength. Jake knew that the ambassador's words were carefully chosen to avoid mentioning the darker aspects of arena competition that Federation databases only hinted at. Commander Turner asked the question that everyone on the bridge was thinking: how much time do we have to prepare, and what resources will be available to train our team? The ambassador seemed pleased by this question, as if Turner's interest indicated acceptance of the invitation. One standard galactic year provides adequate preparation time, and the Federation will supply detailed rules, regulations, and historical footage of previous championships. Your team may consist of up to 6 specialists chosen according to your species' preferences, and training facilities at Nexus Station will be available for the final preparation period. Jake looked around his bridge crew and saw the same mixture of fear and determination reflected in their faces. Humanity had always faced challenges by meeting them head-on rather than backing down, and this situation would be no different. After consulting with Earth Command through quantum communication, Jake gave the ambassador their answer. Ambassador Zexthil: humanity accepts the invitation to participate in the Grand Arena Championships. We will select our finest warriors and compete to the best of our abilities. Ambassador's reptilian features arranged themselves into what might have been satisfaction. Excellent, Captain Morrison. The Federation looks forward to witnessing humanity's performance in the arena. Detailed information will be transmitted to your vessel within the next solar cycle. The communication ended, and Jake found himself staring at a blank screen while the weight of what they had just committed to settled over the entire bridge crew. Dr. Carter was already accessing Federation databases, searching for every piece of information available about previous championships. Commander Turner was making notes about potential team compositions and training requirements. Jake remained standing at the center of his bridge, knowing that humanity had just taken another step into a larger and more dangerous galaxy than they had ever imagined. Colonel Ryan Hayes stepped off the transport shuttle and felt the artificial gravity of Nexus Station pull at his bones in ways that reminded him he was no longer on Earth. The massive space habitat stretched beyond the horizon in all directions, with gleaming metal corridors that could house entire cities and atmosphere processors that maintained perfect environmental conditions for dozens of different alien species. 6 months of preparation had led to this moment, and Ryan carried the hopes of all humanity on his shoulders as he led his carefully selected team through the station's main thoroughfare. Engineer Katie Walsh walked beside him, carrying sensor equipment that would help them understand the arena's technical systems, while Dr. Ben Rodriguez kept medical scanners ready to analyze any alien physiology they encountered. Commander Nick Peterson brought up the rear of their group, constantly studying data tablets that contained every piece of strategic information Earth's military analysts had managed to gather about their potential opponents. The preliminary exhibitions were scheduled to begin in just 3 days, and Ryan knew that these demonstrations would give them their first real look at what they were facing. They had studied Federation footage for months, but seeing alien combat capabilities in person would be entirely different from watching recordings on Earth. Their assigned quarters were located in Section 7 of the habitat ring, where artificial gravity maintained Earth normal conditions and atmospheric composition matched what human lungs required. Ryan called his team together for their first official briefing since arriving at Nexus Station and spread out holographic displays that showed the arena's basic layout. The competition zone itself defied easy description, being a massive adaptive environment that could simulate any planetary condition known to Federation science. Gravity could shift from Earth normal to crushing weight in seconds, while atmospheric composition might change from breathable air to toxic gases that required protective equipment. Temperature variations could range from Arctic cold to molten heat, and the terrain itself could transform from solid ground to liquid surfaces or even zero-gravity void spaces. Katie studied the technical specifications with growing amazement at the engineering required to create such a versatile environment. Power requirements alone must be enormous, and the control systems would need to respond instantly to scenario changes, while maintaining safety protocols for multiple alien species. Dr. Rodriguez focused on medical information that revealed the true dangers of arena competition, while lethal force was officially prohibited. Severe injuries occurred regularly, and psychological trauma from combat stress had ended many promising careers. Federation's advanced medical technology could heal most physical wounds, but mental damage from repeated arena battles often proved permanent. Commander Peterson analyzed historical data from previous championships, searching for patterns that might give humanity some advantage. Most species relied heavily on their natural biological gifts, with combat strategies built around maximizing their evolutionary strengths. The defending champions from the Krex Dominion possessed natural armor, plating thick enough to stop projectile weapons, and could survive in vacuum conditions without any protective equipment. Their combat doctrine emphasized direct assault tactics that overwhelmed opponents through superior physical durability. The Ethereal Collective represented the opposite extreme, using their ability to phase through solid matter for brief periods to avoid attacks and strike from unexpected angles. Their fighters moved like ghosts on the battlefield, appearing and disappearing in ways that made conventional defensive measures useless. Ryan watched footage of the hive mind swarm operating with perfect coordination between dozens of individual units that shared thoughts and tactical information instantaneously. When one unit spotted an enemy target, every other unit in the swarm knew its exact location and could respond accordingly. The sheer efficiency of their tactical coordination made human military units look clumsy and disorganized by comparison. Thermal dancers from Proxima 7 could manipulate heat and flame with their bare hands, creating weapons from ambient energy that required no ammunition or maintenance. Ryan watched them melt through metal barriers and create fire shields that blocked incoming attacks while simultaneously launching burning projectiles at their opponents. The Gravity Weavers seemed to ignore basic physics, as they walked on walls and ceilings using localized gravitational fields that they generated through some biological process that Federation scientists still didn't fully understand. Combat against them would be three-dimensional in ways that human tactics had never needed to consider. The Crystal Singers used precisely tuned sonic frequencies that could shatter metal and stone, while their own crystalline body structure made them immune to most forms of physical damage. Ryan realized that every species in the competition possessed capabilities that exceeded human norms by orders of magnitude. Katie discovered that the arena environment changed randomly during matches according to computer algorithms that prevented teams from preparing for specific scenarios. A battle might begin in Earth-like conditions, but shift to underwater combat in the middle of an engagement, or suddenly introduce zero gravity while teams were in close quarters fighting. Dr. Rodriguez studied medical reports from previous championships and found casualty rates that would be considered catastrophic in human military operations. Federation's definition of acceptable risk included injuries that would end military careers and psychological damage that required years of treatment. Commander Peterson's analysis revealed that few species bothered developing complex strategies, since their natural advantages usually provided sufficient combat effectiveness. The handful of species that lacked overwhelming physical gifts typically compensated with technology so advanced that humanity couldn't even understand how it functioned. As Their first week at Nexus Station progressed. Ryan began noticing how other competitors viewed his team most. Alien species regarded humans with mild curiosity, treating them like an amusing novelty that would provide brief entertainment before being eliminated in the first round at Gia. Few species, particularly the aggressive Razor clans, expressed open hostility toward what they perceived as weak newcomers who didn't belong in serious competition. Razor clans possessed natural, blade-like appendages that could cut through most materials and moved with predatory grace that spoke of millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Their representatives made it clear that they considered humanity's presence an insult to the championship's traditions. Ryan called another team meeting after witnessing a practice match between two supposedly lower-tier species that still demonstrated capabilities far beyond anything human fighters could achieve. The mood in their quarters had grown increasingly somber as the reality of their situation became undeniable. Katie had stopped making optimistic comments about human engineering advantages after seeing alien technology that violated several laws of physics. Dr. Rodriguez admitted that human medical knowledge seemed primitive compared to the biological capabilities displayed by other species. Commander Peterson's strategic analyses kept reaching the same conclusion that conventional human tactics would be useless against opponents who could ignore fundamental assumptions about combat. Ryan looked at his team and saw the same despair that he felt growing in his own chest. They were supposed to represent humanity's finest warriors, but compared to their alien competition, they seemed like children playing at war. The preliminary exhibitions would begin tomorrow, and Ryan knew that watching those demonstrations would either inspire his team to find new approaches or crush what remained of their confidence. He made a decision that would define everything that followed and gathered his people for the most important briefing of their lives tomorrow. We see what we're really facing, and then we figure out how humans win fights we can't win. Colonel Ryan Hayes stood in the center of their training facility and watched his team move through combat drills that would have impressed any human military instructor, but seemed pathetic compared to what they had witnessed during the preliminary exhibitions. The other species had demonstrated abilities that challenged every assumption about what was possible in arena combat, and Ryan knew that conventional thinking would lead to immediate defeat. Instead of surrendering to despair, he made a decision that would change everything about their approach to the championship. Katie Walsh had spent 3 days analyzing the technical systems that controlled arena environments, and her findings provided the first glimmer of hope their team had experienced since arriving at Nexus Station. She discovered that while most species possessed superior individual capabilities, they tended to specialize heavily in ways that created predictable limitations. A species might excel in high-temperature environments but struggle when temperatures dropped below their comfort range, or dominate in heavy gravity conditions but falter when gravitational fields became lighter than their homeworld normal. Dr. Rodriguez contributed crucial insights about human physiology that the team had previously overlooked in their focus on alien advantages. Humans lacked the extreme specializations that made other species dominant in specific conditions, but possessed remarkable adaptability that allowed them to function effectively across a wide range of environmental variables. Human endurance might not be impressive compared to some alien species, but it remained consistent, whether they were fighting in Arctic cold or desert heat. Commander Peterson identified patterns in alien combat behavior that revealed potential weaknesses hidden beneath their overwhelming strengths. Most species had evolved uniform responses to tactical challenges, with entire populations sharing similar approaches to problem-solving. This uniformity made them predictable in ways that could be exploited by opponents who understood their behavioral patterns. Ryan began implementing training methods that focused on uniquely human characteristics rather than trying to match alien physical capabilities. Human cognitive diversity became the foundation of their new strategy as team members approached identical problems from wildly different perspectives, where alien species might have one optimal solution to a tactical challenge. Humans generated dozens of potential approaches that could be adapted based on changing circumstances. Katie developed modifications for standard arena equipment that seemed modest compared to exotic alien technologies but reflected deep understanding of human capabilities and limitations. Engineering solutions focused on amplifying human strengths rather than compensating for human weaknesses. Dr. Rodriguez created medical protocols that took advantage of human psychological resilience and the ability to continue fighting effectively even when injured or exhausted. His research revealed that humans possessed unusual capacity for maintaining tactical awareness under extreme stress conditions. Commander Peterson designed training scenarios that constantly changed variables, forcing team members to adapt their strategies in real time. They practiced switching roles during simulated battles, with each person cross-training in specialties outside their primary expertise. The human team began developing contingency plans for situations that had never occurred in arena history because they couldn't rely on standard approaches that worked for other species. Ryan watched his team transform from defeated humans trying to copy alien techniques into something entirely new in Federation arena competition. Their training attracted attention from other competitors, though reactions varied dramatically between species. Some viewed human preparation methods as chaotic and inefficient, particularly those species that relied on instinctive combat responses. Others began studying human techniques with growing interest, especially the more analytical species who recognized the potential effectiveness of adaptive strategies. Ethereal collectives sent observers to watch human training sessions, and their representatives seemed puzzled by the constant variation in human tactical approaches. The Crystal Singers attempted to analyze human sonic frequencies during combat exercises but found no consistent patterns that could be predicted or countered. 3 weeks before the championship began, Ryan requested permission to modify standard arena equipment according to human specifications. The modifications appeared insignificant compared to the advanced technologies other species employed, but they reflected months of careful analysis about how humans could maximize their effectiveness. Katie designed communication systems that allowed rapid information sharing between team members without relying on the telepathic abilities that some species possessed naturally. Her equipment amplified human capacity for tactical coordination while remaining within Federation technology regulations. Dr. Rodriguez developed medical enhancement techniques that improved human reaction times and endurance without violating rules about biological modification. His methods used training and conditioning rather than genetic alteration to push human physiology toward its natural limits. Commander Peterson created tactical frameworks that could adapt to any arena configuration by emphasizing flexible response over specialized preparation. His strategies assumed that humans would face unexpected challenges and built adaptability into every aspect of their combat doctrine. As word spread about humanity's unconventional preparation methods, betting odds shifted slightly in their favor, not because anyone expected humans to win the championship, but because their unpredictable approach introduced variables that made other teams' performance less certain. Ryan realized that they had achieved something important during their preparation period. His team had stopped trying to be better aliens and started becoming better humans. The difference was subtle but crucial because it meant they would enter arena combat with strategies that no other species had ever encountered. Their first match was scheduled against the key crystalline architects, who possessed the ability to construct defensive structures from available materials. Using their natural silicon manipulation capabilities, traditional tactics against the crystalline architects involved either overwhelming firepower to breach their fortifications or speed sufficient to attack before defensive positions could be established. Ryan's Team would use neither approach because they had developed something entirely different. Katie had identified structural engineering principles that the silicon-based species had never needed to consider because their natural abilities made conventional construction techniques irrelevant. Dr. Rodriguez had studied crystalline architect physiology and found biological limitations that could be exploited through environmental manipulation rather than direct attack. Commander Peterson had created scenarios where crystalline architect advantages became disadvantages when facing opponents who understood their weaknesses. Day before their first championship match, Ryan gathered his team for their final briefing. Tomorrow, we show the galaxy what humans can do when we stop trying to be like everyone else and start being ourselves. He looked at Katie Walsh, who had become an expert in turning alien technology against itself. He saw Dr. Rodriguez, who understood that human medical knowledge included psychological warfare techniques that other species had never developed. He watched Commander Peterson, whose strategic thinking had evolved beyond conventional military doctrine into something uniquely human. Ryan Hayes knew that his team was ready to compete, not because they had become stronger or faster or more technologically advanced. They were ready because they had learned to be human in ways that would surprise every species in the galaxy. The arena awaited, and humanity would finally show what made them different from every other intelligent species in the Federation. The Grand Arena Championships opened with ceremony that defied human imagination as representatives from 47 different species gathered in the massive amphitheater surrounding the adaptive combat zone. Colonel Ryan Hayes stood with his team in the preparation area, watching as the arena itself transformed from empty space into a detailed asteroid field complete with artificial gravity and scattered mineral deposits. Their first opponents, the crystalline architects, moved with fluid grace that spoke of millions of years spent manipulating silicon structures, and their natural abilities made them nearly unbeatable in resource-rich environments. Within moments of the match beginning, the aliens started constructing an elaborate fortress using available asteroid materials and their innate capacity to reshape silicon at the molecular level. Federation commentators assumed the match would end quickly as human weapons proved ineffective against rapidly growing crystalline defenses. Katie Walsh watched the fortress construction through her modified sensors and began implementing the strategy they had developed during months of careful preparation. Instead of attacking the alien fortification directly, the human team began systematically altering the asteroid field's mineral composition. Using mining charges and industrial equipment, Ryan led his team through a series of maneuvers that seemed random to observers but followed carefully calculated patterns designed to create specific structural stresses in the crystalline architecture. Dr. Rodriguez used his knowledge of material science to identify the exact frequencies needed to create resonance failures in the hastily constructed alien defenses. Commander Peterson coordinated timing sequences that allowed each team member to contribute to their overall strategy while maintaining flexibility for unexpected developments. Crystalline architects became increasingly frustrated as their fortress developed structural problems that their natural abilities couldn't quickly repair. Human mining charges had introduced impurities into the asteroid field that weakened the molecular bonds holding their construction together. Katie's engineering expertise proved crucial as she identified load-bearing points where minimal force could create maximum structural damage. The human team didn't try to match their opponents' construction speed because they understood that patience and analysis could defeat rapid building techniques. 20 minutes into the match, the crystalline fortress began showing signs of cascade failure as structural stresses exceeded the aliens' ability to compensate. Ryan gave the signal for final assault and his team moved with precision timing that showcased months of coordination practice. Fortress collapsed in spectacular fashion as multiple structural failures occurred simultaneously, leaving the crystalline architects exposed and vulnerable. Victory in their first match sent shockwaves through the Federation as news networks struggled to explain how physically inferior humans had defeated opponents who had never lost a first-round championship match. The second match took place 3 days later against the Storm Riders, whose natural flight abilities and electrical manipulation should have made them unbeatable in the high-altitude environment that the arena had configured. Severe weather conditions with multiple lightning storms created an environment that heavily favored the aerial species who could navigate the dangerous atmosphere. While using electrical attacks against ground-based opponents, Ryan implemented tactics that confused both opponents and spectators, as his team made no attempt to match the Storm Riders in aerial combat. Instead, they used the storm conditions to their advantage by deploying lightning rods and conductive materials that redirected the aliens' electrical attacks. Katie had modified their equipment to create electromagnetic field generators that disrupted the Storm Riders' natural bioelectric navigation systems. Dr. Rodriguez contributed medical knowledge that had been weaponized into specific frequency generators that interfered with alien nervous system functions without causing permanent damage. The Storm Riders found themselves unable to maintain stable flight patterns as human electromagnetic interference created constant navigation problems. Their electrical attacks became ineffective as human conductive systems absorbed and redirected energy in ways that the aliens had never encountered. Commander Peterson's tactical coordination allowed the human team to maintain effective combat operations despite being grounded in an aerial environment. The match reached its climax when the Storm Riders attempted a coordinated electrical assault that the humans turned into a trap using their modified lightning rod network. Redirected energy created an electromagnetic pulse that disabled the aliens' bioelectric systems and ended the match with decisive human victory. By the end of their second match, Federation entertainment networks were buzzing with analysis of human tactical approaches that seemed to violate conventional arena combat principles. Military strategists from various species began studying human combat doctrines, searching for patterns that might explain their unexpected effectiveness against superior opponents. The third match pitted humanity against the Razor clans, whose natural blade appendages and predatory instincts made them among the most feared competitors in championship history. Arena configuration created a close-quarters environment with multiple levels and narrow corridors that should have favored the aliens' natural weapons and superior agility. Rand knew that conventional human weapons would be ineffective against opponents who could cut through most materials and moved with predatory speed that exceeded human reflexes. Team implemented psychological warfare techniques that other species had never developed because their combat approaches relied primarily on physical capabilities. Katie created sonic generators that produced specific frequencies designed to interfere with the Razor clan's hunting instincts and predatory coordination. Dr. Rodriguez used his knowledge of alien psychology to identify behavioral triggers that could cause the predators to make tactical mistakes. Commander Peterson designed movement patterns that took advantage of human unpredictability while avoiding direct confrontation with superior alien physical abilities. The Razor clans became increasingly agitated as human tactics created situations that their evolutionary programming hadn't prepared them to handle. Their natural hunting behaviors became liabilities when facing opponents who deliberately acted in ways that violated predatory expectations. The match transformed from traditional arena combat into something resembling advanced psychological warfare as humans used alien instincts against themselves. Human victory came when the Razor clan's frustration led to tactical errors that exposed them to coordinated attacks using modified equipment and environmental hazards. The fourth match against regenerating opponents from the Renewal Collective demonstrated human adaptability when facing enemies who could heal from almost any injury. Ryan's team used containment strategies and environmental manipulation rather than direct damage to achieve victory against opponents who seemed nearly indestructible. Each successive match reinforced the growing realization throughout the Federation that humanity possessed combat capabilities that didn't match any known categories. Human tactics combined engineering knowledge, medical expertise, strategic thinking, and psychological warfare in ways that created entirely new approaches to arena competition. As humanity advanced through the championship brackets, their success began attracting serious attention from Federation political leadership, who recognized that arena results affected much more than entertainment. Semifinal match would determine whether humans could reach the championship round and potentially claim victory that would reshape galactic political structures. Ryan looked at his team and saw confidence that had grown through each successful match as they proved that human approaches to combat could succeed against any opponent. Tomorrow they would face the hive mind swarm in what many observers considered humanity's greatest challenge yet. Admiral Vextar of the Hegemony Fleet approached Colonel Ryan Hayes in the preparation area before the semifinal match, and his presence immediately attracted attention from security personnel and Federation officials. The Admiral's species, the Dominion war leaders, had held prominent military positions throughout the galaxy for over 3 centuries, and his personal visit to the human team carried implications that extended far beyond arena competition. Ryan recognized the political significance of this meeting and gestured for his team to continue their preparation while he spoke privately with one of the most powerful beings in Federation space. Admiral, your presence honors us, though I suspect this visit involves more than simple encouragement. For our upcoming match, Vextar's expression remained carefully neutral as he began explaining realities about arena competition that the Federation had never officially disclosed to humanity. Colonel Hayes, your team's success has created complications that extend beyond entertainment and into the fundamental structure of galactic civilization. Arena victory determines more than prestige or glory, as championship results directly influence voting weights in the Federation Council, military command positions, and resource allocation rights across multiple star systems. Ryan felt his understanding of the situation shift dramatically as the Admiral revealed that political balances, which had remained stable for centuries, now faced disruption from human combat effectiveness. Species that had held dominant positions based on their arena performance suddenly confronted the possibility of losing influence to relative newcomers who fought with incomprehensible tactics. The Hegemony Fleet itself depended on Federation military contracts that were distributed according to championship standings, and human victory could result in reduced funding for established military organizations. Admiral Vextar continued his explanation while watching Ryan's face for signs of understanding about the true stakes involved. Your unconventional approach to arena combat has demonstrated that physical superiority and advanced technology are not the only paths to victory. This revelation threatens to upset social hierarchies that have prevented major conflicts between Federation species for generations. Ryan realized that humanity had inadvertently challenged the entire foundation of galactic political structure simply by winning arena matches. Through superior strategy and adaptability, Dr. Rodriguez joined the conversation as Admiral Vextar began discussing the medical implications of their semifinal opponent. Hive mind swarm operates with perfect coordination between dozens of individual units that share thoughts and tactical information instantaneously. Traditional medical knowledge becomes useless when treating opponents who can sacrifice individual units for tactical advantage while maintaining overall combat effectiveness. Katie Walsh approached with sensor data that revealed disturbing information about the arena configuration for their upcoming match. The environment had been designed to maximize the hive mind's advantages with multiple levels and communication networks. That would allow perfect coordination between all swarm units. Commander Peterson studied tactical analysis that showed how previous opponents had been systematically dismantled by swarm tactics that treated individual units as expendable resources. Semifinal match began in an arena that resembled a massive urban environment with complex structures and communication systems that should have provided decisive advantages for the hive mind. Swarm Ryan implemented countermeasures that Katie had developed based on her analysis of collective intelligence systems and communication network vulnerabilities. The human team began deploying signal jammers and electromagnetic pulse generators that created interference patterns designed to disrupt swarm coordination. Dr. Rodriguez used his medical knowledge to identify physiological connections between individual swarm units and develop techniques to create cascade failures in their shared consciousness. The match became a battle between perfect coordination and deliberate chaos as humans introduced variables that the hive mind had never encountered. Katie's electronic warfare expertise proved crucial as she created false signals that caused individual swarm units to receive contradictory tactical information. The hive mind's greatest strength became a weakness when their perfect communication network began carrying misinformation that humans deliberately introduced. Commander Peterson coordinated complex deception operations that exploited the swarm's reliance on shared intelligence by feeding them false data about human positions and intentions. The psychological pressure on individual swarm units increased dramatically as their perfect coordination began breaking down. Under human electronic interference, Dr. Rodriguez suffered severe injuries during a crucial phase of the battle when swarm units attempted to overwhelm human positions through coordinated sacrifice attacks. His wounds required immediate Federation medical treatment, but he continued providing tactical support even while being evacuated from the combat zone. The match reached its climax when Katie successfully created a complete cascade failure in the hive mind's communication network, causing individual units to operate independently for the first time in their evolutionary history. Human victory came as isolated swarm units proved vulnerable to conventional tactics when separated from their collective intelligence advantages. News of humanity's semifinal victory spread across the galaxy, creating reactions that varied dramatically between different species and political factions. Some viewed humans with newfound respect, recognizing that their tactical innovations represented genuine advances in combat theory. Others saw humanity as a threat to established order that needed to be eliminated before their influence could spread further throughout Federation society. The Federation Entertainment Council convened emergency sessions to address growing concerns about human participation in arena competition. Council members argued whether humanity's success proved the value of including diverse approaches to combat or violated the spirit of traditional arena competition intelligence. Reports reached the human team suggesting that their final opponents, the apex predators, were receiving unprecedented support from multiple species who preferred human defeat over the political implications of human victory. Ryan gathered his injured team knowing that their championship match would determine not just personal glory but humanity's future relationship with galactic civilization. Dr. Rodriguez remained hospitalized but insisted on providing remote tactical support despite his serious injuries. Katie had discovered that their final opponents possessed capabilities that exceeded every previous challenger and represented the Federation's ultimate expression of combat perfection. Commander Peterson's analysis revealed that the apex predators had never lost a championship match, and their combat doctrine emphasized overwhelming physical superiority in direct confrontation. Arena configuration for the final match would eliminate most environmental variables and focus on pure combat effectiveness between opposing teams. Ryan realized that everything they had learned about using human advantages against alien weaknesses would be tested in circumstances designed to favor traditional combat approaches. Tomorrow they would face opponents who represented everything that Federation considered ideal in arena competition and prove whether human ingenuity could triumph over perfect physical evolution. The final match would determine if humanity earned its place among galactic powers or if their unexpected success had been merely temporary luck that would end against truly superior opponents. The championship final took place in an arena designed to neutralize every advantage that humanity had used throughout the competition, and Colonel Ryan Hayes knew that this match would be decided by pure combat effectiveness rather than tactical innovation. The environment was a straightforward combat zone with minimal variation and no exploitable systems that Katie could manipulate using her engineering expertise. The Apex Predators moved with fluid precision that demonstrated why they had never lost a championship match in over 2 centuries of Federation arena competition. Their enhanced strength allowed them to wield weapons that would crush human bones, while their superior speed made conventional human tactics seem clumsy, and ineffective natural armor provided protection against most human weapons, and their predatory instincts had been refined through millions of years of evolutionary development. Ryan led his team into combat knowing that they faced opponents who surpassed humanity in every measurable physical category and represented the Federation's ultimate expression of warrior perfection. Dr. Rodriguez provided tactical support from his hospital bed using communication equipment that allowed him to analyze the battle and offer strategic advice despite his serious injuries. Early phases of the match demonstrated the overwhelming superiority of the Apex Predators as human weapons proved largely ineffective against alien armor and natural defenses. Katie attempted to use arena systems against their opponents but found that the environment had been specifically configured to prevent the kind of manipulation that had brought previous victories. Commander Peterson coordinated defensive maneuvers that managed to keep the human team alive but offered no realistic path to victory against physically superior opponents. The match seemed destined to end in decisive defeat for humanity when Ryan implemented their most desperate strategy. Based entirely on unpredictability and psychological warfare, instead of trying to match alien physical capabilities, the human team began using tactics that violated every convention of arena combat. Katie used her engineering knowledge to turn the arena's safety systems into weapons by creating equipment failures that affected both teams equally, but which humans could better anticipate and avoid. Her modifications were subtle enough to escape detection by arena monitors, but significant enough to create hazardous conditions that leveled the playing field. Dr. Rodriguez contributed remote analysis that identified behavioral patterns in Apex Predator combat doctrine and revealed psychological pressure points that could be exploited. The aliens had achieved perfection through evolutionary refinement, but this same perfection created predictable responses that humans could manipulate. Commander Peterson developed feint patterns and diversionary tactics that forced the Apex Predators to respond to threats that existed only in human planning. The psychological pressure began affecting alien performance as they encountered combat situations that their evolutionary programming had never prepared them to handle. Ryan realized that their greatest weapon was humanity's refusal to accept inevitable defeat even when facing impossible odds. Human stubbornness became a tactical advantage as team members continued fighting effectively despite suffering injuries that should have ended their participation. The climactic moments of the match showcased humanity's ability to create complex tactical combinations from simple elements. Multiple contingency plans activated simultaneously, creating a web of feints, diversions, and concentrated attacks that overwhelmed the Apex Predators' straightforward combat doctrine. Katie's Final equipment modification created an electromagnetic pulse that disabled alien armor systems, while her backup plans provided alternative approaches when primary tactics failed. The apex predators found themselves facing opponents who treated apparent defeat as merely another tactical variable to be managed rather than an endpoint to be avoided. Human victory came through a combination of ingenuity, teamwork, and sheer determination that refused to acknowledge the superiority of alien physical capabilities. The arena fell silent as representatives of 47 species processed the reality that humans had achieved championship victory through methods that challenged fundamental assumptions about combat effectiveness. Federation Entertainment Council meetings began within hours of the match conclusion as political leaders realized that humanity's success threatened the entire structure of galactic civilization. Species that had held dominant positions for millennia suddenly faced the prospect of reduced influence, while humans gained voting rights and political power proportional to their arena achievement. Emergency council sessions revealed the depth of concern throughout Federation leadership as established hierarchies confronted the possibility of fundamental change. Within 72 hours, new regulations were announced that effectively banned human participation in future arena championships. The official reasoning cited incompatible combat doctrines and safety concerns for other participants, but diplomatic communications revealed different motivations. Federation leadership recognized that humanity's tactical innovations had exposed critical weaknesses in the system that determined political power and resource allocation. Arena combat had been based on assumptions about physical superiority and technological advancement that human victory had proven false. Other species began questioning why they should accept subordinate positions when humans had demonstrated that intelligence and determination could overcome inherited advantages. Ryan and his team returned to Earth as heroes, but their victory carried bitter recognition that the galaxy was not ready to accept the implications of human success. The ban on human participation became a symbol of both human achievement and galactic fear as Federation species struggled to maintain established social orders. Dr. Rodriguez recovered from his injuries with the observation that humanity had achieved something more significant than arena victory by introducing merit-based advancement to a galaxy that had forgotten such concepts were possible. Arena system itself faced challenges for the first time in centuries as species began developing human-inspired tactics and questioning traditional approaches to combat. Katie continued developing technologies that other species attempted to understand and duplicate while maintaining human advantages through constant innovation. Commander Peterson found himself consulted by military strategists from multiple Federation species who wanted to understand human tactical thinking. The ban intended to isolate humanity instead became the catalyst for transformation across galactic civilization as human example inspired others to seek advancement through achievement rather than inherited traits. Federation politics began shifting as species recognized that physical capabilities and advanced technology were not the only measures of worthiness for leadership positions. The Entertainment Council faced increasing pressure to reform arena competition rules as traditional approaches proved inadequate. Against human-inspired innovations, humanity began developing independent arena systems that attracted species who valued creativity over tradition and merit over inherited advantages. The human approach to competition emphasized adaptability, strategic thinking, and psychological resilience rather than physical perfection or technological superiority. Years after the Championship Federation, observers noted that human influence continued growing despite official attempts to limit their participation. In galactic institutions, the reason humanity was banned from alien arenas ultimately became the reason that arena systems throughout the galaxy had to evolve or face irrelevance. Human victory had demonstrated that any intelligent species could achieve greatness through determination, ingenuity, and refusal to accept limitations imposed by others. Galaxy discovered that the most dangerous human characteristic was not their combat effectiveness, but their ability to inspire other species to exceed their own perceived limitations and challenge established orders that no longer serve the common good.